Welcome to another episode of WTF Cinema.
Hi everybody. Remember John Hughes? For teenagers in the 80s, he was like the voice of a generation. He told stories that we identified with. Stories that made us laugh and cry. In many ways, his films were about giving a voice to the voiceless. Most of his movies centered on teenagers who were adrift and uncertain. The outcasts and the geeks featured largely. I know many people who've seen these films and felt like they were made especially for them. And that's the height of good storytelling. And these stories are as relevant today as they ever were, as long as you don't look too closely at the wardrobes. And then at a certain point, John Hughes lost his damn mind. Don't believe me? Well, let's watch Baby's Day Out. Now, this review may feel a little bit different than most of the reviews, and that's because this film barely has a plot. So I can't really walk you through the plot because there almost isn't one. Just while you watch this, I want you to remember, this is from 1994, written and produced by the legendary John Hughes. Keep that forefront in your mind while we go through this together. Welcome to our main character. No, not the nanny. The baby. Baby Binks. See, the baby is the son of a very wealthy couple. So wealthy, in fact, that neither one of them really ever spent time with the baby. It's the nanny's job, after all. Sadly, on the day of Baby Binks' first photo shoot, because that's the thing that rich people do, the photography crew is abducted by a gang of thugs who intend to take their place in order to kidnap the baby for ransom. A comedy about child abduction? How's that gonna work?
He's beautiful.
Yeah, he's awful damn good.
Don't you cuss around him.
Welcome home, son. Where's he been?
Phoenix. Where's that baby? Where's he at?
So, Will Girardi and his gang here convince the mother and the nanny and the butler to leave them completely alone with the baby. And like any responsible, sensible parent, the mother quickly agrees. Is it just me, or does this guy look like a young Noah Bennett from Heroes? Very rarely does a movie show us who its intended audience is. I'm sure if you're a baby, this movie is amazing. How does eating cereal like that even work? The baby escapes through a nearby open window. And from there, the true absurdity begins. The remainder of this movie is a never-ending series of slapstick. Stuff like this. This is the kind of thing that would kill John McClane. I mean, you expect to see this kind of thing in like a Tom and Jerry cartoon, but in a real-life situation, it just seems gruesome. And this movie is full of moments like these. I'm not going to address all of them. Instead, I'll just specifically address this one and let you extrapolate to the rest of the movie. But there's a guy delivering packages in an apartment complex. So he leaves one of the packages behind to prevent the elevator door from closing while he goes to deliver a package. Why he would do this? I don't know. Most of us, we would go deliver the package, walk back, hit the elevator button, ride the elevator back down. But he has to prop the elevator door open with a package because the baby has crawled in through the window of the apartment he's delivering to. And when the lady opens up the door to get the package, the baby's going to crawl around the door, in front of the woman and the guy, and all the way back to the elevator, where he's going to remove the package, closing the elevator doors, and then somehow the elevator's going to go down to the ground floor and the door's going to open even though the baby can't reach the buttons. See, we had characters doing things they wouldn't normally do so that they would set up situations where the baby could get where we needed it to. This is ridiculously sloppy writing. I need the baby to get from A to B, And I will do whatever it takes, no matter how unrealistic or removed from reality it might be, to ensure that he gets there the quickest way possible. No. If you have to go through this many contortions to get the baby to B, you need to change where B is. Like I said, it sounds nitpicky. And that's because I'm only addressing this one particular moment, and I'm going to leave most of the rest of them alone because we've got more than enough to talk about. Moving on. See, the baby has some kind of cloaking field so that nobody can see him except for the thugs trying to track him down. He travels all throughout this city, and nobody ever sees him or comments on the fact that there's a baby crawling around unattended. He hops on a city bus and takes it downtown. Nobody sees him get on the bus except the thugs. Nobody comments on it. Nobody has a problem when he gets off. He gets inside a cab. He's a baby, by the way. He can only crawl. He can't walk. But he gets on a bus, in a cab. He hitches a ride inside a lady's purse, and nobody notices him. Ever. And I guess this is meant to be some statement about how self-obsessed we all are with our own lives, and we don't notice the world around us, but we can't all be that bad. You're talking about New York, which is where I'm assuming this movie's taking place. It kind of has that vibe to it. Even if 7/8 of the people completely ignore this unattended baby crawling throughout the city and using public transportation, that still leaves thousands of people who would see the damn thing. And it only takes one to go, "Hey, little fella, how'd you get here? Excuse me, did anybody lose a child?" For bonus points. The fact that this millionaire couple's baby was kidnapped makes the news. Everybody is talking about this missing baby. There's even a scene where a reporter is reporting on the missing baby. And the baby crawls along, catches the mic cord, which jerks the mic out of the reporter's hand. The reporter bends down to pick up the mic next to the baby. The cameraman catches the baby on camera, and the reporter goes back to talking about this missing baby. Nobody comments on the baby that's crawling around unattended, even though it's worth millions. And I don't care how self-interested you are. If I knew that crawling around in the city of Austin here somewhere was a baby worth millions, I'd be looking for unattended babies. Hell, I'd probably be kidnapping other people's real babies and going, "Oh, I just found this guy. Is this the one? No? How about that one in that stroller? I could grab him." Nobody. The entire movie. We even get this great car chase scene when they're trying to catch the bus that the baby is in because they see the baby get on the bus and nobody else can see the baby. I don't know what they're trying to do throughout this sequence, because at one point one of the thugs talks about jumping out of the van and onto the top of the bus, or they're trying to cut the bus off, and the bus keeps losing them because they're traveling alongside and the bus takes a turn, and then they gotta cut through alleys and whatnot. Honestly, wouldn't it be easier and you draw less attention to yourself if you just calmly followed the bus? It's not like the baby's gonna get off. The baby can't get off till the next stop. You just follow it to the next stop. One of the guys jumps out, runs up, and goes, "Oh my God, I left my baby on the bus. Thank God he's okay." You grab the baby, you go.
Babies crawling in traffic tend to draw attention, don't you think?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But then we get this. Not one driver notices the baby. Nobody slows down, nobody hits the brakes, nobody swerves, but the baby crawling in the road. If an actual baby started crawling down the middle of a busy street like that, it would look more like this. Meanwhile, we continue the slapstick parade. Our thugs also spend 10 minutes trying to get the baby out of a gorilla cage where it's playing with the gorilla. I mean, why not? Baby's taking public transport. He's on cabs and buses. Why can't he climb into a cage with a gorilla? It's not like zoos go out of their way to make sure people can't actually get in with the animals. While all this slapstick is going on, we very rarely, I think twice, check back in with the mother, who is starting to realize how important her child is to her and how important family is, and how she hasn't bonded with her son like she should have because she's been so obsessed with image and the portrayal in the media and her own status, and that none of that matters, and that all that matters is family. It would be touching. It would be poignant if we spent more than 10 minutes on it. But it's our B plot. It's barely a B plot. It's only our B plot because there is no C plot. Instead, we spend all of our movie doing stupid slapstick. And that's apparently better than developing any kind of emotional characteristics. In a shocking turn of events, a woman actually notices the baby in the park, which is good, because I was starting to worry that the baby was actually a fictional character, just like a vision, a psychotic break that the gangsters are having as they try to track it down. The woman immediately assumes that the baby belongs to a nearby woman and, you know, it's never addressed or touched upon again. They finally grab the baby, but before they can get it back into the van, the janitor from Scrubs shows up in a cop uniform to question them about the baby. Now, Will's got a problem. He's got to hide this baby. So he puts his jacket down on his lap and tucks the baby under the jacket, and they just sit out on the bench and they have a conversation with the cops. Meanwhile, the kid repeatedly punches and twists Will Girardi's manhood. His dangly bits. Like a lot. So you get that whole comedic, "No, everything's fine, officer!" Because that's hilarious. Then at a certain point, legendary writer-director John Hughes, who, to be clear, did not direct this, but he still wrote and produced it, so he still has all the blame in my book, decides that we need to up the comedy factor. So the baby pulls out a Zippo lighter, presumably from one of the jacket pockets, even though the character's never seen smoking. And he flicks the bic and starts running the flame over Will Girardi's wedding tackle. So, you know, the reactions get bigger and bigger, but the pants don't catch fire for a good 5-10 minutes. This goes on forever. Finally, the baby sets the thing down, crawls away. The two other thugs get the cops to look somewhere else so that Will Girardi can throw off the jacket. "Oh, my crotch is on fire!" Comedy gold. When the thugs come back, they decide to put out the fire the best way they know how. High-class comedy here. Ironically, this is what I feel this movie did to John Hughes' legacy. The baby then hangs out on a construction site for a while. Again, nobody notices him. Hard hats and safety all the way around. We're dealing with dangerous equipment. Everybody be aware at all times. Nobody notices the baby on the construction site. The explanation we're given is that the guard at the gate is asleep. Later, as the thugs are going through the construction site trying to catch up to the baby, nobody notices them either. This movie is kind of like a Mr. Magoo cartoon, except it's live action and Magoo is a baby. All throughout this film, the thugs get into absurdly ridiculous situations trying to get this baby back without drawing attention to themselves, when really, all you would have to do is stand up and be like, "Excuse me, everybody. If everybody could just stop for a second. My son has gotten away from me. He's on that steel girder over there. Can we please get my son back to me? I'm frantic." Then you would get the baby because everybody would help you. And then you could thank everybody, oh my God, thank you for getting my baby. And you could walk away. Sure, the baby's been on the news, but you changed the clothes he was abducted in, and all babies kind of look alike. You know, this entire movie's kind of like the opening to Superman 3. We're getting near the end now, because a detective comes in and tells the parents that there have been multiple sightings of the baby all over town. And he starts to run down the list of places where the baby's been sighted, which causes the nanny to jump up and go, I know where he's going! Because all of those locations are locations from his favorite book. So the next place he's going to go is the old soldier's home. Because that's what happens in the book. So they all pack up and drive to the old soldier's home. 2 issues. I have a documented list, cited all over the city. How? Nobody saw him. Nobody saw him. How can there be reported sightings when nobody saw him? Because if somebody saw him, they would have said, oh look, an unattended baby. Perhaps this is the missing baby that's all over the news that's worth millions. I should perhaps pick up this baby and say, is anybody missing a baby? And if not, call the hotline that I'm sure has been on the news to say, hey, I found your baby. If none of that happens, then there was no sighting. Second, the baby is reenacting his favorite book. He hops on the bus to get to the park, takes a cab to get to the zoo, then goes and visits a nearby construction site. And I may have these out of order, but the point remains. The baby has memorized a map of the city. The baby somehow knows how to get to all of these places. He even knows how to find a soldier retirement home. I couldn't do that without Google. And this was in 1994. The baby found a soldier retirement community and crawled there. Thank God this film is almost over. The soldiers at the home do what you would expect a bunch of retired soldiers to do upon seeing a baby where a baby doesn't belong. They sing at army songs. Nobody mentions calling the police. They recognize it being the missing baby from the news. Congratulations. But nobody calls the police. No mention is made of it. They just sing songs at it. Luckily, the parents and the police, thanks to the nanny's revelation, were already on the way, so they show up. They got the baby. Hooray! On the way home, the baby points at the thug's hideout and says, "Boo-boo!" Because that's what he calls his favorite book. It's also the only thing he says in the entire movie. Boo-boo! The mother figures out, hey, he's saying his book's in that building over there. And so the chief of police, I guess, calls for reinforcements and tells everybody to go to that building to get the boo-boo. The kid can't talk, but everybody just goes, hey, I bet he's smart enough to remember where he left his book after traveling all over the entire city. And he's just pointing out the window and saying, boo-boo, that's probably the villain's hideout. Let's go get them. And nobody questions it. Nobody's hesitant. Nobody voices any doubts. Let's do this. So, acting on the advice of a baby incapable of speech, the police are able to arrest the thugs. The end. Well, not quite the end. There's a nice little blurb there at the end where the baby gets a new boo-boo, and it's about a baby's trip to China. Thank goodness we were spared that sequel. About this movie. It's dumb. It's really dumb. It might be appealing to kids 3 or younger, just because of, oh look, it's funny a guy gets hit. Oh look, it's funny he fell down. But that's just not what I expect from somebody like John Hughes. I mean, I know Home Alone had those slapstick sequences in them, but at its heart, Home Alone was a story about family. There was an emotional journey with the mom in particular. Like, you felt for the mom trying to get back to her son. And you had the moment of the son realizing how important his family is to him. And sure, you had the slapstick to break up the drama. This movie doesn't even do the opposite of that. There is almost no drama in this movie. It's just slapstick. Out of the hour and a half, I want to say maybe 10-15 minutes total is spent not doing slapstick. And I'm not saying slapstick is bad. You got to be careful with it nowadays in order to do it right. It's hard to do it right anymore because back in the day, it was what it was. I mean, it was one of the primary forms of comedy. Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, hell yeah. But nowadays, audiences need something more. And when I go to see a movie written by John Hughes, I really expect something more. And instead I got this. I saw this movie when it came out in theaters. And that's why I had to do an episode about it, because it stuck with me as just being so god-awful. It was 1994. I was 12. And I felt ripped off. Anyway. Thanks for joining us on our John Hughes retrospective. See you next time.
Thank you for watching WTF Cinema. Until next time, what the f***, man?
Hi, everybody. I should actually look at my script before I start recording so I know what to say.